A very good evening to one and all present. On behalf of Study Circle, I invite you all to the 90th meeting. Today's topic for discussion is sale under SARFAESI, and our resource person is Mrs. V. Rajeshwari, advocate and an ex-banker. Our speaker has vast knowledge and experience in banking law. In her service in the banks, she has been a driving force behind many litigations. In October 2019, she took voluntary retirement and had started focusing on matters before DRT and DRAT and also insolvency matters before NCLT. Her contributions to the Indian Bankers Association are highly regarded. It is safe to say that we have the apt person to speak on sale under SARFAESI. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening to everyone. Let me first convey my heartfelt thanks to Senior Counsel Mr. Om Prakash sir for encouraging me with an opportunity to address this elite group. I have been watching the series of programs organized in this esteemed platform, where eminent personalities, including Honorable Judge DRT since retired, and very senior professionals are addressing on various topics. I feel privileged to address this elite forum. Now, over to the topic. We will focus only on the sale process under SARFAESI Act in a detailed manner, since several issues are there to discuss on this topic alone. As we all know, secured creditors can initiate action for enforcing the security under the SARFAESI Act without intervention of the court by issuing demand notice to the borrower and guarantor, giving a period of 60 days time to repay the dues. The precondition is that the account should have been classified as NPA as per RBI norms. When the borrower and the guarantor fail to comply with the demand, the secured creditors proceed with taking possession of the secured asset under the Act and then proceed further with sale of the same. Now, what are the relevant provisions for sale under SARFAESI Act and the relevant rules? We will see those as first part and important case laws as second part. We will only see the crux of each provision instead of reading out the full text of the provision. Section 13(4)(a) of SARFAESI Act. It says if a borrower fails to pay the amount within the stipulated period of 60 days after demand notice, the secured creditor can take possession of the secured asset and bring the same for sale. Then section 13(5)(A) newly introduced, where sale of the property is postponed for want of a bid for not less than the reserve price, the secured creditor can also bid for the property on any subsequent sale. Then it means that secured creditor themselves can purchase the property under this provision if the first sale fails for want of a bid for the reserve price. Then section 13 subsection 7, for any action taken under SARFAESI Act against the borrower under section 13(4), all costs, charges and expenses properly incurred by the secured creditor or any expenses incidental can be recovered from the borrower and from the money realized out of the secured assets. Then section 13 subsection 8, where the borrower pays the dues with all costs, charges and expenses to the secured creditor at any time before the date of publication of sale notice for public auction or private treaty, the secured assets shall not be transferred by the secured creditor by any means. Even if they have taken any steps towards this, upon payment by the borrower, no further steps shall be proceeded by the secured creditor. Then section 13 subsection 9, where the advance is by more than one secured creditors representing not less than 60% in value of the amount outstanding shall decide for taking action under section 13 subsection 4. Then going into the relevant rules, rule 4, 5, 6, 7 deal with possession and sale of movables. But the provisions regarding sale of movables and immovables are almost the same, except that regarding the movables, the property subject to speedy or natural decay or the expense of keeping the property is likely to exceed the value can be sold by the authorized officer immediately after recording the receipts. This is what Rule 4.3 says. Otherwise, all provisions are almost same for mobiles and immovable properties. So let us go through the rules regarding immovable properties, which are rules 8 and 9. Rule 8, sub-rule 5. The authorized officer has to obtain valuation of property from an approved valuer and fix the reserve price in consultation with the secured creditor. Then, who is an approved valuer? Approved valuer is defined under Rule 2D. He is a person registered under Wealth Tax Act and approved by the Board of Directors of the secured creditor. Both the conditions should be satisfied for being an approved valuer under SARFAESI Act. That is, he should be registered under Wealth Tax Act and approved by the Board of Directors of the secured creditor. Under Rule 8.5, sale can be done adopting any of the following methods as per Rule 8 sub-rule 5. That is, obtaining quotations from the persons dealing with similar secured assets or otherwise interested in buying the assets, or inviting tenders from the public, or holding public auction through e-auction mode, or by private treaty. Rule 8 sub-rule 6 talks about notice period of 30 days and requirement of publication of sale notice in two leading newspapers, one vernacular and another in English, in the format prescribed. The Rule 8 sub-rule 7. Every sale notice shall be affixed on a conspicuous part of the immovable property and shall be uploaded with detailed terms and conditions on the website of the secured creditor. So, publication of the sale notice and its terms in the website of the secured creditor is made mandatory. The detailed terms and conditions include description of the property, including the details of known encumbrances, then value of the secured debt, then reserve price below which the property cannot be sold, time and place of auction, or the time up to which sale will take place through e-auction, deposit of earnest money, then any other terms which the authorized officer considers it necessary for the purchaser to know. It means if there is any litigation about the property within the knowledge of the secured creditor or any other information relevant should be disclosed in the sale notice. Then Rule 8 sub-rule 8. Sale by any method other than public auction shall be on such terms as may be settled between the secured creditor and the proposed purchaser in writing. It means if the sale is through private treaty, it has to be done as per the terms between the secured creditor and the purchaser. Rule 9 sub-rule 1. It says 30 days sale notice is required for public auction at the first instance, and notice of sale shall be published in two widely circulated newspapers, one in vernacular language and another in English. For any subsequent sale, the notice period is 15 days. Then Rule 9 sub-rule 2. It says sale shall be confirmed in favor of the highest bidder subject to confirmation by the secured creditor. If the offer for sale is less than the reserve price, the authorized officer may, with the consent of the borrower and the secured creditor, can effect the sale at such lower price. Otherwise, sale cannot be confirmed for a price less than the reserve price. Rule 9, sub-rule 3. The purchaser, that is the highest bidder, shall on the same day or not later than the next working day deposit 25% of the sale price, including EMD, to the authorized officer. And in default of such deposit, the property shall be sold again. Then Rule 9, sub-rule 4. The balance 75% of the purchase price payable shall be paid by the purchaser to the authorized officer on or before the 15th day of sale confirmation, or such extended period as may be agreed upon in writing between the purchaser and the secured creditor. In any case, not exceeding 3 months. The balance sale consideration of 75% should be paid within 15 days or within 3 months, as may be agreed upon between the purchaser and the secured creditor. Then Rule 9, Sub-Rule 5. Under this rule, if the purchaser does not pay the balance 75% within the period stipulated, the deposit made by him will be forfeited and the property shall be resold. The defaulting purchaser shall forfeit all claims to the property. Rule 9, Sub-Rule 6. Upon payment of the entire sale consideration, sale certificate will be issued by the authorized officer in favor of the purchaser in the prescribed form. So upon payment of the sale consideration, as per the terms, the secured creditor that is represented by the authorized officer will issue the sale certificate. Then Rule 9, Sub-Rule 7. If the property sold is subject to any encumbrances, the authorized officer may allow the purchaser to deposit the expenses required for discharging the encumbrances. And after meeting such expenses, if any surplus is available, it shall be paid to the purchaser within 15 days. Rule 9, Sub-Rule 9. The authorized officer shall deliver the property to the purchaser free from encumbrances known to the secured creditor upon deposit of the amount as given under Rule 9(7). That is, the sale certificate has to be issued stating that there are no encumbrances. This is again stated under Rule 9, Sub-Rule 10, which says the sale certificate issued shall specifically mention that whether the property was purchased free of encumbrances known to the secured creditor or not. These are the specific provisions of sale under SARFAESI Act and rules. We will see the second part, that is case laws on these under these provisions of SARFAESI Act. The landmark cases alone I have taken for discussion today. The first issue we will take up for discussion is the notice period. For this, we have a landmark judgment rendered by Supreme Court, which that is Matthew Burgess versus Amrita Kumar and others. Two important factors were determined by the Supreme Court in this case. One, 30 days clear notice is mandatory. Number two, when a sale is postponed, subsequent sale process should not be done by the bank without fresh sale notice. Here, as per the provisions of Rule 9, Sub-Rule 1, sale can take place only after expiry of 30 days from the date of public notice or notice of sale has been served on the borrower. Supreme Court ruled that the word or has to be read as and clear 30 days notice is required both from the date of paper publication and also from the date of service of notice on the borrower. In this case, sale notice was published on 23rd August 2007, fixing the sale for 25th September 2007. Notice was sent to the borrowers on 30th August 2007 only. That is, from the date of service of notice to on the borrowers, there was no clear 30 days notice, though 30 days notice period is there from the date of paper publication. Then one bid was received for 1.27 crore as against the reserve price of 1.25 crore. Borrower filed a writ petition before the High Court, and the High Court directed them to deposit 2 crores within 2 months, failing which sale would be confirmed in favor of the bidder. After expiry of 2 months, instead of allowing the sale confirmation, a further period of 6 weeks was given, directing payment by the borrower, failing which sale could be confirmed in favor of another buyer who offered a higher price, that is 2.03 crore, as against the earlier bid for 1.27 crore. Since the borrower did not pay the amount as stipulated, High Court directed issuance of sale certificate in favor of the person who offered a higher amount. He was not a bidder at all. So the auction purchaser filed a SLP questioning the directions of the High Court. Supreme Court observed that there was no clear 30 days notice, first of all, from the date of service of sale notice on the borrower. Supreme Court stressed that 30 days should be counted both from service of sale notice as well as publication date. Then, when original sale was postponed, it should not have been done without further notice to the borrower. Here, sale was postponed and later sale certificate was directed to be issued to a stranger who did not bid for the property. This should not have been done without a fresh sale notice. Supreme Court finally directed the successful auction purchaser, that is the appellant, to deposit the difference amount between the sale price bid by him and the one offered by the stranger, failing which the bank should conduct fresh auction. The 2 points stressed were again taken on further cases by the High Courts. In a subsequent case, Canara Bank versus Amarendra Reddy, Supreme Court held that overruled the judgment passed by Telangana High Court. Here, Telangana High Court ruled that after 30 days public notice in newspapers, another 30 days notice has to be given to the borrower and the mortgagor for sale. This was overruled by the Supreme Court, stating that the service of notice to the borrower and paper publication can be simultaneous. But it has to be ensured that 30 clear days of notice is given, both from the date of service of notice and from the date of paper publication. Then, the next issue we take up is from when the 15 days period start for paying the balance sale consideration of 75%. As we saw, 15 days within from the on the date of the expression of the secured creditor that to the information to the highest bidder that he is the highest bidder, he has to pay the initial 25% on the same day or the next subsequent day. Regarding the payment of the remaining amount, 75%, it has to be paid within 15 days as per Rule 9. The purchaser should deposit it within 15 days or within next extended period, which should not be more than 3 months. In this case, Rakesh Birani versus Prem Narayan Sehgal and others, ruled by Supreme Court, in which sale date was fixed for 14th February 2013. 25% was deposited by the buyer on 15th February 2013. Balance 75% was deposited on 13th March 2013. The question that arose was from which date the period of 15 days would start for payment of the balance 75%. Sale confirmation was received by the auction purchaser on 27th February 2013 and the payment was made within 15 days thereof. Here, there will always be a gap between the date of declaration of the person as the highest bidder and issuance of sale confirmation, because the sale confirmation has to be done by the secured creditor and it is an internal process which will take about 2 or 3 days time. Here, the sale confirmation was issued to him only on 27th February 2013 and the payment was made within 15 days. Supreme Court upheld the validity of the transaction and ruled that it was from the date of receipt of sale confirmation, the payment of 75% has to be made. In a similar case, MSKG Engineering versus State Bank of India, Madras High Court ruled that 3 months time, that is an extended time for payment of 75% of the sale consideration should be counted from the date of sale confirmation as held by Supreme Court in the earlier case we have now seen. There is another interesting case where statutory provisions, if waived by the parties, cannot be questioned, ruled by the Supreme Court in Siddheshwar Cooperative Bank Limited versus Iqbal and others. Though statutorily there are some stipulations to be done mandatorily, if the parties are waiving, then the parties should not question it at a later point of time. In this case, sale notice was issued on 18th December 2005. Sale date was 11th January 2006. So there was no clear 30 days notice. Only 22 days notice was there. There was one bidder and he paid 25% amount immediately as per the provisions. But balance 75% amount was paid by him over a period of time up to 13th November 2006. The borrower wrote a letter to the bank on 13th November 2006 advising to accept the balance sale consideration from the auction purchaser, stating that he was known to the borrower. The bank accepted the sale consideration and sale certificate was also issued thereafter. After appropriating the sale proceeds for recovery of the balance amount, the bank filed a petition under Cooperatives Act. This recovery petition was also ordered in favor of the bank. It was then the borrower questioned the sale in High Court. Single judge of High Court quashed the sale certificate for non-compliance of Rule 9. The division bench affirmed this order. High Court observed that 30 days notice was not served and balance sale consideration was not paid as per provisions of statute. Appeal was filed before Supreme Court by the bank. Supreme Court observed that on the date of sale, that is 11th January 2006, the borrower was present. He did not object for holding the auction before 30 days. Further, he wrote to the bank on 13th November 2006 to accept the balance sale price as the auction purchaser was known to him. So the borrower waived his rights to question the process. Moreover, writ petition was filed 4 years after the sale certificate. The allegations of victimization and fraud played on him had no basis. So Supreme Court observed that there was a consent by the parties. They have waived their rights. Supreme Court also observed that the High Court erred in accepting the writ when there is a provision for filing application before TRT. The Supreme Court further noticed that the auction purchaser closed the account by paying the balance dues also. The High Court ruling was thus sale by private treaty is recognized by the SARFAESI Act and rules, but there is no stipulation how private treaty has to be done. There is one Ministry of Finance notification dated 23/4/2012. According to this notification, a secured creditor cannot go for private treaty as at the first instance. This notification, Ritika, can you please screen share it, that notification?
I have just shared it now.
According to this notification, properties value up to 1 crore can be brought for sale under private treaty only after trying public auction at least once. Then any property valued more than 1 crore, public auction has to be tried 2 times at least before proceeding under private treaty process. So this MOF notification has to be followed by the banks. It is dated 23rd April 2012. And this private treaty, sale under private treaty has been recognized by the courts. Thus, though there are no specific cases which was questioning the private treaty. Then, next issue is the encumbrances known should be mentioned in the sale notice. This has been stressed by all the high courts, and we have taken for discussion only 3 cases. That is, IFCI Limited versus Lucknow Municipal Corporation, decided by the Allahabad High Court on 29th April 2020. According to this judgment, encumbrances in the property not mentioned in the sale notice, the sale notice has to be cancelled and sale proceeds have to be refunded to the auction purchaser. Then there is another Madras High Court judgment, Sendil Kumar versus General Manager, Bank of Maharashtra, decided on 18/9/2019. In this case, sale was complete and sale certificate was issued to the auction purchaser. Later, there was disturbance by some third persons who claimed ownership over the property. The auction purchaser requested for straightening the title or to cancel the sale and refund the amount. Sale price was around 2 crore. The court observed that existence of some bogus documents and fraud about the property and pending litigations on the property were not brought out in the sale notice. Sale notice appeared as if the property was free of litigations and encumbrances. Sale was set aside with directions to refund the sale consideration with interest at 12%. Then there is another case decided by Kerala High Court on the same issue, but here the issue is a bit slightly different. Non-mention of encumbrance on the property to be sold is not questionable by the defaulter. The aggrieved party only has to question about non-mention of the encumbrance. This is Burgess Ukem versus State Bank of India, decided by Kerala High Court on 28th September 2010. The next issue, when the right of redemption of mortgagor gets extinguished. Supreme Court says in Shakina versus Bank of India, the court observed that the mortgagor, in spite of given opportunity to pay even before issuance of the sale certificate, did not make payment. When this judgment was passed on 20th August 2019, the amendment was also in force. So SC brought for discussion the latest section 13 subsection 8, which says that mortgagor can redeem the property before publication of the sale notice. Here, even at the sale certificate stage, the borrower did not make the payment. So Supreme Court held that the mortgagor lost the right of redemption soon after publication of sale notice and dismissed the appeal. On the same issue, there is one more Supreme Court judgment, that is Dwarika Prasad versus State of UP. In this case, the bank issued sale notice for sale of the property for the first time, fixing the sale for 30th March 2015. No bid was received. And the second sale notice was issued fixing the sale for 30th January 2016. One bid was received for around 54 lakhs. Soon after this process, SARFAESI application was filed by the mortgagor before the DRT, but DRT did not give any stay order. The mortgagor preferred a writ petition before the High Court. High Court stayed further action, directing the writ petitioner to pay 7 lakhs before 28th March 2016 and another sum by 30th April 2016. And the case was posted to 28th March 2016 for reporting. On that day, though the amount of 7 lakhs was paid, upon hearing the arguments of the parties and also that the writ petitioner wanted to withdraw the petition, stating that he would proceed before DRT, the writ petition was dismissed as withdrawn. The bank issued sale confirmations since there was no stay, and the highest bidder received the sale certificate also. It was registered subsequently. The purchaser took possession of the property also. The mortgagor filed another writ petition before the High Court seeking right of redemption. The High Court rejected the writ petition on the ground that Section 13(8) was not followed. That is, payment was not made before the sale. The mortgagor preferred appeal before Supreme Court. Supreme Court observed that under Section 60 of Transfer of Property Act, right of redemption is available to the mortgagor unless it stands extinguished by act of parties, and that the said principle is applicable to this type of transaction also. In this case, the mortgagor did not deposit the dues before the date of sale, nor after withdrawal of the writ petition earlier, and hence he was not entitled for redemption. But Supreme Court observed that he was entitled for refund of the 7 lakhs he deposited earlier with interest. The appeal was dismissed with these directions. We will take the next issue for discussion, which is obtention of valuation report before fixing reserve price. One in Andhra Pradesh High Court, in Pochiraju versus PNB, ruled that valuation report has to be obtained for every sale. Here, valuation report was obtained in February 2017 for sale proposed in March 2017. But that sale was cancelled subsequently since the borrower approached for one-time settlement. Later, the settlement did not fructify, and the bank issued sale notice with the same reserve price based on the same valuation report obtained, and this time it was in November 2017. High Court held that fresh valuation report should have been taken by the secured creditor before issuing this sale notice. So, the High Court stressed that under the Rule 8(5), every time secured creditor has to obtain fresh sale notice before issuance of sale notice. They have to obtain fresh valuation report before sale notice. Contrary to this, there is a subsequent judgment by Karnataka High Court in Srinidhi Stone Crushers versus Authorized Officer South Indian Bank, dated 4th July 2019. Here, valuation report was dated December 2011. and sale date was October 2012. High Court held that no fresh valuation report is required every time, since it will only prolong the process. In this case, there are two more takeaways from the judgment. One, where there is no fraud, sale confirmation cannot be set aside. Number two, a check, unless dishonored, is a payment. Then, on the same issue of valuation, under Section 32 of SARFAESI Act, which says about protection of action taken under good faith by the executives of the secured creditor, there is one judgment, that is by Supreme Court, K. Virupaksha versus State of Karnataka. Supreme Court held that based on Section 32 of SARFAESI Act, criminal action will not lie on the executives of the bank for taking action under SARFAESI Act. Here, valuation report and the fixation of reserve price was questioned by the borrower. Supreme Court quashed the criminal complaint, giving directions to the complainant to seek remedy before DRT and DRAT. There is one more case on this issue, Alpine Pharmaceuticals and others versus Andhra Bank and others, decided by the High Court of Telangana on 24th January 2020. In this case, the bank had not given a specific reply to the representation made by the borrower under Section 13(3)(a) against proceeding under SARFAESI Act, since it was sent by them after 60 days period. The bank did not reply because this representation was received by them after 60 days of the demand notice. The court observed that Section 13(3)(a) has to be complied with, even if borrower writes after 60 days. The other issue was sale of machinery along with the immovable property without fixing separate reserve price. The court said that independent reserve price should have been arrived at and mentioned in the sale notice. There should be, and that there is one more issue. The court mentioned that there should be reasonable proximity between the date of valuation report and sale. So, three judgments we have seen on this issue. The next one, whether a sale could be done to nominee of an auction purchaser. In E. Satyaseelam versus RO DRT Coimbatore, Madras High Court decided recovery officer has no authority to sell to a nominee, even if highest bidder requests for the same. Then, under SARFAESI also, there is another judgment by Madras High Court, Hemalata Ranganathan versus authorized officer, Indian Bank. In this case, the court observed that the provisions of SARFAESI Act do not permit sale to nominee. The matter went up to Supreme Court, alleging collusion, and Supreme Court directed the bank to submit a report after investigation. The bank conducted investigation and submitted a report to the High Court and undertook not to go beyond the Act thereafter. So, sale to nominee is not mostly recognized by many High Courts, though in some cases it is mentioned as a passing remark. Then, forfeiture of EMD. Regarding forfeiture of EMD, there is one case, Agarwal Tracom Limited versus Punjab National Bank, in which auction purchases 25% amount was, it was decided by Supreme Court. The auction purchases 25% amount was forfeited by the bank, since they did not pay the balance 75% as per the terms. Writ petition filed by the auction purchaser was dismissed by the High Court, since alternative remedy was available before DRT. Supreme Court upheld the orders of High Court and also observed that the forfeiture was done as per the provisions of law, and that if at all it has to be challenged, it can be done before DRT. Then, on the same issue, Madras High Court in MSKG Engineering versus State Bank of India decided in April 2018, quoting the same above Supreme Court judgment, dismissed a writ petition, quoting that there was alternative remedy available for before DRT for any issue regarding forfeiture. In another case, authorized officer Indian Bank versus Tetrahedron Limited, there were two issues. The borrower claimed that the amount, the auction purchaser's deposit of 25% has to be forfeited. He sought two directions from the High Court to forfeit 25% amount remitted by the purchaser, since he did not pay the balance sale consideration, and The amount forfeited should be adjusted towards the loan account after appropriating for the expenses incurred by the bank. When the writ petition was pending, the bank forfeited the amount and informed the auction purchaser. Then the bank declared having appropriated 5.50 lakhs towards expenses and balance to P&L account. The High Court observed that Rule 9(5) only states that the deposit shall be forfeited if 75% amount was not paid on time. But there is no specific mention in the Act whether this amount has to be credited to the account or not. While in a similar such circumstance, under the income tax rules, which is adopted for DRT sale, there is a provision that the forfeited amount should go to the government only in respect of sale by the recovery officer of DRT. In this case, High Court ordered that the forfeited amount should be credited to the borrower's account only since the amount was received at the instance of the borrower after appropriating towards expenses incurred, and that the bank was not justified in appropriating the amount to its P&L account. Regarding priority of charge and payment of statutory dues, we have a few cases. One decided by Supreme Court, Telangana Power Distributors Company, and another versus Srigda Beverages. In this case, the unit was sold on as-is varies basis. Auction notice had a clause that statutory dues have to be borne by the purchaser. The purchaser applied for electricity connection when demand for arrears of electricity dues was claimed by the department. He claimed that the sale was made free of encumbrances. The purchaser filed a writ petition, and the single judge of the High Court quashed the demand based on another Supreme Court judgment, Isha Marbles versus Bihar State Electricity Board. Appeal was preferred by the Electricity Board before the division bench, and it was also dismissed. The Electricity Board then preferred appeal before Supreme Court. The Supreme Court observed that there was a specific mention in the sale notice quantifying the dues of various accounts, including electricity dues, and that the purchaser had to bear the same. The court said that there can be no doubt that the liability to pay electricity dues exists on the purchaser. Then, another case recently decided by the Division Bench of Bombay High Court, State Bank of India Asset Recovery Branch versus State of Maharashtra and others. The bank challenged attachment of the secured assets under Maharashtra VAT Act, initiated by the VAT authorities, since the property was mortgaged by the borrower in favor of the bank. The bank claimed priority of charge on the property over the sales tax dues. Directions were sought to remove the charge. The writ petition was allowed by the High Court, quashing the attachment, that is, charge on the secured assets as well as the notices issued. The court went into the provisions of Section 26E of SARFAESI Act, which discusses about priority in charge and also various judgments on the aspect, and allowed the writ petition. Regarding refusal of registration of sale certificate by the sub-registrar's office, we have a few cases on hand, but I will discuss the latest one, which was argued by our senior counsel, Om Prakash sir, before the Madurai bench of Madras High Court. South Indian Bank Limited versus SRO South, Madurai and others. In this case, mortgage date was 26th August 2015. Supplementary memorandum date 14th December 2015. Both duly registered. Sale conducted under SARFAESI Act was on 11th December 2018. The arbitrator, in a petition filed by a third person, passed interim orders of attachment of the property on 23rd April 2018, that is after the date of mortgage, and the attachment was given effect to by the district court. This attachment was registered and reflected in the encumbrance certificate. Sale certificate was issued to the purchaser on 7th January 2021. In view of the subsisting attachment in the arbitration proceedings, the sub-registrar refused to register the sale certificate. The refusal slip formed the cause of action for the writ proceedings before the High Court. The petitioner's counsel, who is our senior counsel, made a lengthy argument, quoting almost 8 to 10 judgments passed by various High Courts, including Madras High Court and with quotes by the Supreme Court, where directions were issued to the sub-registrar to remove the encumbrance of such attachment to facilitate registration of sale certificate presented by the secured creditor. The High Court dealt in detail each and every judgment quoted by the petitioner's counsel and rendered a distinctive, noteworthy judgment. It is a 28-page judgment with these observations. Mortgage date was much prior to attachment date, so secured creditors' rights take precedence. Attachment before judgment shall not affect the right existing prior to the attachment. Section 64 of Civil Procedure Code, which restrains private alienation of property by the defendant after attachment, does not bar registration of sale certificate created out of a right already existing prior to attachment. Then, as per Section 47 of Registration Act, a registered document will operate from the time from which it would have commenced operation if no registration is required or made, and not from the date it was registered. As per Section 23 of Registration Act, a document requiring registration shall be accepted for registration within 4 months from the date of execution. In case of dispute, inquiry is permitted under Section 74A of Registration Act. Thus, the purchaser gets a right relating back to the date of execution and not the date of registration. Then, proceeding under SARFAESI Act would have primacy, especially in a case where the mortgage is earlier. Provisions of Section 26E of SARFAESI Act and Section 31B of DRT Act state about priority in rights of secured creditor against all statutory dues. Eventually, in this case, the defendant counsel completely considered on the legal position, and the court, while allowing the writ petition, issued directions to the sub-registrar to register the sale certificate, quashing the refusal slip. In another case, Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank Limited was a joint sub-registrar Madurai South, decided by Madras High Court on 29th January 2021. The prayer was to efface and delete the attachment entry dated 20th March 2019 and to direct the sub-registrar to register the sale certificate issued by the bank on 16th March 2020. The writ petition was allowed and the sub-registrar was directed to register the sale certificate, and the encumbrance of the attachment entry made on the file of sub-registrar were directed to be deleted. We have more than 10 cases wherein Kerala High Court has passed judgments, especially by the same judge on Justice Alexander, for effacing attachment orders before registration of the sale certificate by the banks. So I am not dealing with each and every case. Only one case I will mention. Kerala Grameen Bank versus Sub-Registrar Office, dated 28th June 2018. So effacing judgment orders are many by the Kerala High Court. Then, whether registration and stamping of sale certificate is mandatory, it is decided by the full bench of Madras High Court in Dr. R. Tyagarajan versus Inspector General of Registration, Santhom, Chennai, and others on 5th August 2019. In this case, judgment was rendered by full bench headed by Chief Justice. The property was sold under SARFAESI Act to the petitioner for 1.03 crore and sale certificate was issued by the bank. The sub-registrar insisted to pay stamp duty on the market value and not on the sale value. But the petitioner contended that he was liable to pay the stamp duty on the sale value only, and he filed a writ petition. There were two conflicting judgments of Madras High Court earlier. One decided in 2015, in which the registering authority, it was decided by a division bench that the registering authority cannot doubt the value mentioned in the sale certificate. And therefore, Section 47A of Registration Act, which says about reference of the document for deciding the market value, would not be applicable in respect of the sale conducted under SARFAESI Act. Then another unreported judgment of Madras High Court in 2017, a division bench held that the authorized officer appointed by the bank under SARFAESI Act could not be equivalent to civil or revenue code, and he is only an agent of the secured creditor. and he cannot decide on the value of the properties. In such circumstances, the division bench held that the purchaser was liable to pay stamp duty on the market value. These two judgments were quoted before this court, before the full bench, and the full bench decided the issue like this. The sale certificate issued by the authorized officer, who is neither civil nor revenue officer, would not fall under the exempted category for stamp duty, and the sale certificate is liable for stamp duty on the market value as per Article 18C, read with Article 23 of Schedule 1 of Stamp Act. Then, when the sale certificate is not properly stamped and registered, it's a void document, and no right would vest on the purchaser. The full bench confirmed the proposition laid down by the division bench in the unreported judgment of 2017 and ruled that the sale certificate issued by the authorized officer of the bank has to be stamped for the market value, and in the event of undervaluation, the registering authority is entitled to proceed under the Stamp Act. On limitation, we have got two cases for discussion. One, decided by Kerala High Court, PM Kelakutty and others versus YMCA. In this, the High Court held that once a claim in respect of a financial asset is made within the period of limitation, then the measure adopted by the secured creditor under Section 13(4) is also deemed to be within limitation. That is, within 12 years, the demand notice has to be issued. And after that, the subsequent acts like taking possession and sale notice, for each and everything, they need not count 12 years from the date of creation of mortgage. That is what was held by Kerala High Court in this case. Then another case is decided by Madras High Court, IOB versus GS Rajashekharan. Here, possession of the secured asset was taken on 13th November 2007. And under Section 17 of SARFAESI Act, the measure has to be challenged within 45 days from the date of such act. As such, the period of limitation in this case would be 28/12/2007. The writ petition was filed on 8th January instead, that is beyond the period of 45 days. The court observed that the first cause of action started when possession was taken, that is on 13th November, followed by subsequent cause of action on 26th December when auction sale notice was issued, and the writ petition was filed within 45 days from that date. That being a continuous cause of action, having lastly taken in December 2007, and as a writ petition was filed within 45 days thereof, it was allowed by the High Court. Then, regarding issuance of fresh sale certificate, we have on hand only one case I have seen so far, which I want to quote here. That is State Bank of India and others versus Satish Babu and others. There was a unique circumstance under which Kerala High Court ordered for issuance of sale certificate for the second time. In this case, sale certificate was issued by the bank to the nominee of the purchaser. Based on an agreement between the purchaser and nominee, the auction purchaser requested for issuance of sale certificate in favor of the nominee that was also adhered to by the bank. Before the sale certificate was registered, there arose some issues, and ultimately the nominee agreed for issuance of sale certificate in favor of the auction purchaser. Then the auction purchaser approached the bank, requested for issuance of a fresh sale certificate to himself. The bank refused to heed, stating that their part is already over, since they have issued the sale certificate in favor of the nominee as already requested by the purchaser. The matter went up to High Court, and the High Court observed that in such a situation, when a request is made by the holder of the sale certificate, nothing prevents the bank in issuing a fresh sale certificate in favor of the purchaser. This is a unique case, but the concept can be applied to other cases with reasonable circumstances. Two more judgments. One is Union Bank of India versus Rajat Infrastructure, decided by Supreme Court on 2nd March 2020, in which pre-deposit is mandatory for filing appeal before DRAT under Section 18 of SARFAESI Act. The provision is already there under the section that pre-deposit should not be less than 25%, and it was made mandatory under this judgment. And there is one more judgment by Supreme Court, which is a general law that is IOB versus Ashok Sawmills, decided in 2009. It says that law contemplates that action taken by the secured creditor is questionable by the DRT, and it can even go to the extent of reversing the transactions and restore status quo ante. So each and every issue in the action taken by the secured creditor under SARFAESI Act can be questioned before the DRT. That is what was stressed by the Supreme Court in this case. And that's all the case laws I have prepared for discussion. There are many more case laws under the same head, sale under SARFAESI Act, but I have selected only very few which are considered as landmark judgments. And I also request the participants to share if anything important judgments are left out, so for the benefit of all the members. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If there are any questions from the participants, they can post the question in the chat box or they can raise their hands. There seems to be one question from Mr. Rajeshwaran. He's been unmuted, so I can ask you.
Good evening, madam. Good evening for the efforts you have been taken, and it's really very nice going through your entire program, and it was really eye-opening. My question here is, Rule 8.8
Yes, sir.
says that sale by any other method other than public auction or public tender shall be on such terms may be settled between the secured creditor and the proposed purchaser in writing. The banks have now, financial institute and banks have now taken this particular rule 8A, and they have started doing private treaty as and when it comes to them. Whereas going with the other proviso of Rule 9 and the sub rule 2, where it says that provided that if the authorized officer fails to obtain the price higher than the reserve price, he may, with the consent of the borrower and the secured creditor, effect sale at that price. Now here, my doubt is that you have mentioned that the sale at the first instance shall not be for within the period of 30 days or 2 consecutive auctions. That is one. When that is so, there is a contradiction with Rule 8 and this provision here. One. Second is coming to the reserve price. Now here, sale by any other method other than public auction or public tender shall be as such terms may be settled between the proposed parties. Now, a sale is being conducted every month by most of the banks. They have been conducting, and it has been mentioned here under the Rule 9, sub Rule 2, that not sub Rule 2, which says that Rule 9 says that provided further if the sale of immovable property by one of the methods specified in sub Rule 5, Rule 8 fails, the sale is required to be conducted again. The authorized officer shall fix the public notice not less than 15 days. Now here, normally during the second sale, 10% of the amount is reduced in the reserve price. So there is a reduction of reserve price. Now, when every time there is a reduction is allowed, then what is the actual reserve price? In my opinion, for the first instance, when the valuation report is taken, that should be considered as a reserve price, and all other price fixation is only a provision provided to us, or it should be taken in that sense. Whereas it is taken that every time when reserve price is fixed, every time when the sale price is fixed, that is be taken as a reserve price, and it pays way for a private treaty which is more than the reserve price. For example, 1 crore is the reserve price at the first instance, and at the 5th instance, my reserve price is 80 lakhs. Now, if I want to do a private treaty, if the sale price is more than the price fixed, then I can go for a private treaty without the consent of the borrower. When I fix it at 80 lakhs, I can sell it for 81 lakhs very easily under the private treaty. So this is once again against the against the borrower itself, because borrower has got a huge debts, and now these confusions are still there. So I want a clarification on this.
Sir, regarding reduction in the value of the property you are mentioning, every time they are reducing 10%, you are mentioning, sir.
Yes.
It is an internal rule. There is no hard and fast rule under the SARFAESI Act or on the rules or anywhere by Reserve Bank of India or MOF how to reduce the reserve price. It is all based on the market inquiries. Each bank will have their own internal rules how to reduce the reserve price. It can be 5% or 10%. For the first time, they can go for reduction by 5%, and then they will go for further reduction thereafter by another 5% or 10%. These all internal rules decided by each bank on case-to-case basis. So it is only again based on the reasonable values they collect by making inquiries, and also take, if the banks, they have all the banks almost, they are having internal rules to say if the property is worth more than 1 crore, then they will go for at least 2 valuations. Then if it is more than 5 crore, they will go for a 3rd valuation, and they will fix the highest of all the values as a reserve price at the time, at the first instance. Thereafter, they go for reduction in sale price because they don't fetch the proper bid. Then it is difficult for them to bring it for sale. So for the practical purposes, they will quote everything. Everything will be resent out in an internal note, and they will go for reduction. It is an internal matter purely. That is number 1. Number 2, you are telling that they are going for private treaty after going for reduction. Here, sir, in private treaty also, sale notice is required. What they will do is, they will get a quote from a purchaser. That purchaser, suppose he quotes 80 lakhs for a property, that will be communicated to the borrower, saying that if you have a better buyer, you can bring him for sale of the security to him. So we will have, the banker will have on hand one offer, which is 80 lakhs. Then they give an option to the guarantor and the borrower, everyone, the mortgager, asking them to bring a better buyer. If they get a better buyer only, with the knowledge of the borrower only, it takes place. So the borrower cannot tell that the banker himself is reducing the value every time. And to check this only, Ministry of Finance has also issued one notification, as I mentioned to you, in April 2012, to say that when a property is worth less than 1 crore, the bank should not go for private treaty directly. They should try a public auction at least once. And if the property is worth more than 1 crore, then public auction should be tried at least 2 times before going for private treaty method. Everything has some transparent measures as directed by the ministry.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Umashankar has 2 questions. In private treaty, is it necessary to publish the sale notice within 15 days notice for price discovery? That's question number 1. And question number 2 is, as you said in your presentation, the time of sale notice is counted from the date of publication and servicing to borrower and guarantors. Is this applicable to all notices under SARFAESI, that is under section 13.2 and 13.4?
First question is regarding?
In private treaty sale, is it necessary to publish the sale notice with 15 days notice?
Private treaty, publication of sale notice is not required. Publication is required only if it is by public auction. Here, the provisions are very clear to say that when you go for sale under public auction, then publication of notice through the newspapers is a must. But for private treaty, private notice to the borrower and mortgagor is sufficient.
Right.
The second question?
The second question is, as you said in your presentation, the time of sale notice is counted from the date of publication and servicing to borrower and guarantors. Is it applicable to all the notices under?
It is applicable for each and every sale. At the first instance, it is 30 days notice. Then thereafter, the second and further instances, whenever the sale notice is issued, 15 days notice will be given. There should be clear 15 days notice from the date of service as well as from the date of publication of the sale notice.
He also has a third question now. Sale certificate is issued by bank, but the auction purchaser has not registered the property with 4 months from issue and has come with a request to revalidate. Can we do it?
It is, again, I told you there is only one case on hand, that is Kerala High Court. Depending on the facts and circumstances of the case, they gave a judgment to say that a fresh sale certificate can be issued to the auction purchaser. Like that, if circumstances so warrant, the banker may issue they will decide. That is, there is a team, there is a committee of people sitting in the bank internally. They will decide. There is no judgment or anything to say that it should not be done.
There's one question from Ms. Selvarani. Can we claim priority under section 26E even against PF dues?
PF dues,
Yes.
all statutory dues are only taken into account for the purpose of it. That includes PF dues also. But PF dues come under the at the time of winding up of the company, under which there are specific provisions under the Companies Act, which is also applicable for sale. Subject to the provisions of IBC only, this provision has been provisions under SARFAESI Act has to be considered. That is decided under IBC. That is, statutory dues cannot form part of this proceedings under liquidation. So it need not be considered.
Thank you, ma'am. I think those are the end of the question and answer session today. There doesn't seem to be any more questions. So with that, oh, there's one question here from Mr. Anshuman. There's one question from Mr. Kalyana Venkatesan. If the party has filed a suit for insolvency in the sub-court, now his bank has called for sale under SARFAESI Act. In this suit, bank was one of the creditors. After institution of the suit, only banker has come forward for auction of the property. What will prevail? Court has already made all notifications and it has come under the court custody.
It cannot be done. When insolvency proceedings are there and court has taken custody, then sale cannot be done by the secured creditor. And special permission has to be obtained from the insolvency court for any further action by the secured creditor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I just add one point regarding this 26E priority, where one of the participants had raised a question which you have answered also. Just for academic information, this issue has been raised before the Honorable Madras High Court, where PF authorities are claiming that we may not be bound by 26E. So there is a single judge who had referred this matter to a larger bench.
Okay, sir.
By Justice Adi Kesulu in a batch of cases where banks had started claiming that I have priority, I have every right. There cannot be any interference from the PF authorities. PF authorities have started claiming that your auction is bad, you cannot go ahead. And in cases where auction is held, they said you pay the entire money to PF authority. So this issue on a batch of about 15 to 20 cases has been referred to a bench by Justice Adi Kesulu. I think our friends can share it in the group, the judgment also. Just wanted to add this point.
If there is any other important judgment left out for discussion and anybody is having knowledge of this such judgment, it can be shared for our benefit.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This was a very enlightening and a very informative session. Madam, you had given us around 30 case laws for our information and our benefit. And many of the participants here have commented that it's been a very interesting and an enlightening session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for taking your time and addressing us today. And thank you to all the participants for participating with their Q&A, which was lively and kept us engaged throughout. And thank you to the organizers for organizing this event today. I thank one and all for participating. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.